In a bright, colorful alien colony named Zephyria, the people were small and delicate. They lived on a beautiful planet with soft skies and shining rivers. But the Zephyrians had one big problem. They were not very strong. Most of them struggled to lift heavy things or run fast. They wanted to be fit and healthy, but they did not know how. One day, the Council of Zephyria gathered in the big meeting hall. The hall was filled with bright lights and paintings of their history. The council members were worried about the health of their people. They knew that if they wanted to survive in the galaxy, they needed to be stronger. "We need help," shouted Zira, a member of the council. "We should ask the humans for an instructor. They are known for their strength and fitness." The other council members nodded in agreement. They all knew that humans were strong and could teach them how to be fit. The council decided to send a message to Earth, asking for a human gym instructor. They wrote a letter, explaining their need for help. They described their weak bodies and their desire to become stronger. They ended the letter with hope, saying, "Please send us a human who can guide us." Once the letter was sent, the Zephyrians waited eagerly for a reply. They talked about the kind of instructor they wanted. "I hope they send someone friendly and wise," said Plo, a young Zephyrian who dreamed of being strong. "Maybe they will bring exciting games and fun workouts." Days passed, and the excitement in the colony grew. The Zephyrians prepared their training grounds, painting bright colors on the walls and clearing space for exercises. They imagined the human instructor showing them how to lift weights and run fast. Everyone shared stories about human athletes they had heard of, imagining how strong and skilled the instructor would be. Finally, the day came when a spaceship landed on Zephyria. The council rushed to the landing site, filled with excitement and hope. The spaceship was shiny and sleek, unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. They whispered to each other, "Is this it? Is our instructor here?" As the spaceship door opened, everyone held their breath. But instead of a human, a tall and powerful Deathworlder stepped out. The Zephyrians gasped. The Deathworlder was massive, with muscles and a fierce look. They were used to soft and gentle beings, but this one looked strong and intimidating. The Deathworlder scanned the crowd, their expression unreadable. The council members exchanged nervous glances. "This is not what we expected," Zira said quietly. The Zephyrians felt a mix of fear and curiosity. "Is this our instructor?" they wondered. The Deathworlder walked towards them, confidence in every step. "I am here to help you train," they said in a deep voice. The Zephyrians were silent, unsure of how to react. They wanted to be strong, but they had never met anyone like this before. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a surprising journey that would change them forever. The Zephyrian colony buzzed with excitement as the spaceship landed. Bright lights flashed, and the ground shook slightly as the ship touched down. The council members stood at the front, their eyes wide with curiosity and fear. They were ready to meet the human instructor they had been waiting for. As the door of the spaceship opened, a ramp extended down to the ground. The Zephyrians held their breath, their hearts pounding in their small chests. They imagined a strong, friendly human stepping out, maybe someone with a warm smile and encouraging words. But as the figure emerged from the ship, the crowd gasped in shock. Instead of a human, a massive Deathworlder stood before them. The Deathworlder was tall and muscular, with skin that looked tough as armor. Their hair was wild and unkempt, and their eyes glinted with confidence. The Zephyrians felt a mix of fear and awe. "Greetings," the Deathworlder said in a deep voice that echoed across the landing area. "I am Kale, your new trainer." The Zephyrians exchanged confused glances. They had hoped for a gentle instructor, not someone who looked like they had come from a battlefield. Zira, the council member, stepped forward cautiously. We were expecting a human gym instructor," she said, her voice trembling slightly. We sent a message asking for a human to help us." Kale raised an eyebrow but smiled. "Well, you got me instead. I promised to help you get strong." The crowd remained silent, unsure of how to respond. Kel's presence was intimidating, but there was something about their voice that felt sincere. Slowly, Zira nodded, trying to be brave. "We welcome you, Kel. We hope you can help us." Kel scanned the group, taking in their small frames and anxious expressions. "You want to be stronger, right? Then let's get to work." Kel's enthusiasm was infectious, and a few aliens began to feel hopeful. Maybe this Deathworlder could teach them something valuable. Kel led the Zephyrians to the training ground. It was a large open space filled with colorful mats and weights. The aliens looked around, still nervous but curious about what would happen next. Kel picked up a heavy weight with ease and lifted it above their head. "This is what you will learn to do," they said, grinning. The Zephyrians stared in amazement. "Can we really lift that much?" asked Plo, a young Zephyrian who dreamed of being strong. Kel nodded, their smile growing wider. "Of course, but it will take hard work and dedication." As the training began, Kel started with basic exercises. They showed the Zephyrians how to stretch and warm up properly. Some of the aliens followed along, but others struggled to keep up. The Deathworlder encouraged them with loud cheers, making the training feel like a game. "Don't worry if you can't do it perfectly. Just try your best," Kel shouted, their voice booming with energy. The Zephyrians began to relax a little, laughing at their mistakes. The atmosphere changed from fear to excitement as they saw Kel's passion for training. But even as the training started, some council members whispered to each other, still unsure about having a Deathworlder as their instructor. "Is this really what we wanted?" one asked. "Can this Deathworlder teach us?" They were worried but also curious about what would happen next. Little did they know, the journey with Kel would bring challenges and surprises that would change their lives forever. As the days passed, the Zephyrians began their training with Kel, the Deathworlder. The excitement was high, but so were the challenges. Kel's training methods were very different from anything the Zephyrians had ever experienced. They were used to gentle exercises and calming movements, but Kel was all about strength and toughness. On the first day, Kel introduced the aliens to a series of intense workouts. "Today, we start with push-ups," they announced with a wide grin. The Zephyrians exchanged worried glances. Push-ups sounded hard. "What is a push-up?" asked Plo, his eyes wide with confusion. Kel quickly showed them how to do a push-up. They dropped to the ground and pushed their body up and down effortlessly. The Zephyrians watched, amazed but intimidated. They tried to copy Kel, but many struggled to lift their small bodies off the ground. Some fell over, and laughter filled the training ground. "Come on, you can do it," Kel cheered, clapping their hands. But the Zephyrians felt embarrassed. They were not used to working so hard. They were used to gentle stretches and calm yoga, not this rough training. Many of them were tired and frustrated after just a few minutes. "I can't do this," Zira exclaimed, sitting on the ground, breathing heavily. Kel walked over and knelt beside her. "It's okay. Everyone starts somewhere. Just keep trying." Their encouraging words helped, but the training was still hard. As the week continued, the cultural clashes became more obvious. Kel's workouts included heavy lifting, obstacle courses, and endurance races. The Zephyrians struggled to keep up with the fast pace and demanding exercises. Some began to doubt if they could ever become strong. One day, during a race, Kel shouted, "Faster! You can do better." But instead of feeling motivated, the Zephyrians felt pressure. "Why do they push us so hard?" whispered Tia, a young Zephyrian. "This is too much for us." Many aliens agreed, wishing for a gentler approach. Kel noticed the change in mood. They wanted to help but didn't understand the Zephyrians' need for encouragement and support. "Why aren't you all trying harder?" Kel asked, confused by their lack of energy. "This is how you get stronger." The Zephyrians huddled together, discussing their feelings. "We appreciate the effort, but we are not used to this kind of training," Zira explained. We need time and patience. They were scared of pushing their bodies too hard too fast. Kale listened carefully, realizing that they needed to change their approach. Okay, Kale said, smiling. Let's take a step back. We can mix it up. They decided to include games and fun activities that the Zephyrians could enjoy. How about we play a race with a twist? Let's make it fun. The next day, they set up an obstacle course that included jumping over soft mats, crawling under colorful ropes, and balancing on beams. The aliens began to relax, laughing and cheering each other on. The atmosphere changed from serious to joyful. As they trained together, the Zephyrians and Kale started to understand each other better. The Deathworlder learned the importance of kindness and encouragement, while the Zephyrians discovered that hard work could be enjoyable. Slowly, they were bridging the gap between their cultures, finding common ground through sweat and laughter. Little did they know, this newfound friendship would lead them to great adventures ahead. As the training continued, Kale noticed that the Zephyrians were becoming more comfortable with the workouts. They were laughing and having fun during their exercises. Kale felt proud of their progress, but they also wanted to see just how much the Zephyrians had improved. It was time for a challenge. One bright morning, Kale gathered everyone at the training ground. Today, we will have our first challenge, they announced, their voice booming with excitement. The Zephyrians looked at each other, a mix of excitement and fear on their faces. What kind of challenge? Asked Zira, her curiosity piqued. Kale smiled widely. We will have a fitness competition. There will be races, lifting contests, and obstacle courses. Are you ready to show what you can do? The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits high. The idea of a challenge excited them, and they wanted to prove how strong they had become. The first event was a race around the training ground. Kale explained the rules. You will run from here to that tree and back. The fastest one wins. The Zephyrians lined up, their hearts racing with adrenaline. They had practiced running, but this was their chance to show off. On your marks, get set, go, Kale shouted. The Zephyrians dashed forward, their feet pounding against the ground. Plo and Tia took the lead, their small bodies moving swiftly. The other aliens ran as fast as they could, but some stumbled and fell. Kale encouraged them, shouting, keep going. You're doing great. As they approached the tree, Plo was in the lead, but Zira was close behind. They reached the tree and turned to run back. Plo crossed the finish line first, his eyes wide with joy. I did it. He cheered, panting with excitement. The other Zephyrians applauded, feeling proud of their efforts. Next came the lifting contest. Kale set up weights of various sizes and explained, each of you will lift as much as you can. Let's see who can lift the heaviest. The Zephyrians were nervous but eager to try. They watched as Kale lifted an enormous weight with ease, showcasing their strength. One by one, the Zephyrians stepped up to the weights. Some managed to lift small weights, while others struggled. Zira surprised everyone by lifting a medium weight with determination. I can do this, she shouted, feeling strong. The crowd cheered, their spirits rising with each attempt. Finally, it was time for the obstacle course. Kale had set up a fun and challenging course that included jumping over soft mats, crawling under ropes, and balancing on beams. This will test your skills, Kale declared. Remember to have fun. The Zephyrians lined up again, ready for the final challenge. As they started the course, they laughed and encouraged one another. Kaya stumbled but quickly got back up, and her friends cheered her on. You can do it, Tia, Plo shouted. One by one, they navigated the obstacles, their confidence growing with each successful jump or crawl. Kale watched proudly, seeing how much they had improved. You are all amazing, they exclaimed. At the end of the day, the Zephyrians were tired but happy. They had faced their first challenge and had fun doing it. The bonds between them grew stronger, and they realized that training together made them a team. Little did they know that this was only the beginning of their journey to strength and unity. After the exciting challenge, the Zephyrians felt a new sense of confidence. They had worked hard and pushed themselves, and it showed. Kale, the Death Worlder, noticed their improvement and felt proud of their efforts. But Kale knew that to truly help them, they needed to build trust. One sunny morning, Kale called everyone together for a special training session. "Today, we will focus on teamwork," they announced, their voice full of energy. The Zephyrians gathered, curious about what this would mean. They loved working together, but they wondered how it would help them get stronger. Kale explained, "We will pair up and do exercises together. Trust is important in training and in life. You must support each other to grow." The Zephyrians nodded, understanding the importance of teamwork. They formed pairs and looked at each other, excited and a little nervous. Kale started the session with a simple exercise. One partner would stand while the other would lean against them for balance. "This is called a trust lean. It helps you learn to rely on each other," Kale said. The Zephyrians were hesitant at first, unsure if they could hold each other up. But with Kale's encouragement, they tried. Plo and Tia teamed up. Plo stood straight while Tia leaned against him. "I won't let you fall," he promised, feeling brave. Tia leaned back, testing his strength. They both giggled, and soon they were holding each other up with confidence. "See, we can do it," Tia cheered. Next, Kale introduced a new game called the Trust Fall. One partner would fall backward, trusting their partner to catch them. The Zephyrians looked worried at first. "What if I fall?" Zira asked, biting her lip. Kale smiled and said, "That's the point. You have to trust your partner." After some hesitation, Zira and Plo decided to try. Zira stood with her back to Plo, her heart racing. "I'm ready," she said, closing her eyes. Plo held his hands out, ready to catch her. "Just fall. I promise I will catch you." Zira took a deep breath and let herself fall. Plo caught her just in time, and they both laughed in relief. "That was fun," Zira exclaimed, feeling a rush of excitement. As the session continued, the Zephyrians began to trust each other more. They supported one another through exercises, cheering and encouraging their teammates. Kale watched with a proud smile, knowing they were creating strong bonds. After the training session, Kale gathered everyone together. "You all did amazing today," they praised. "You learned to trust each other, and that's a huge step forward." The Zephyrians felt proud, knowing they had made progress as a team. Zira stepped forward. "Thank you, Kale. We have learned so much from you. We are starting to feel strong and confident." The others nodded in agreement, their faces bright with joy. Kale's heart swelled with happiness, knowing they had made a difference in the lives of these small aliens. That night, as the Zephyrians shared stories and laughter under the stars, they realized how far they had come. They had started as weak and uncertain beings, but now they were becoming a strong team. They trusted Kale, and they trusted each other. Together, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun rose brightly over Zephyria, and the colony buzzed with excitement. The Zephyrians had become stronger and more confident under Kale's training. They were ready for the next challenge, but they were about to face something they hadn't expected: opposition. One day, as the Zephyrians practiced their exercises, a group of elders arrived at the training ground. They were older Zephyrians, known for their wisdom and experience. Their expressions were serious as they approached the group. Zira, who was leading the training, felt nervous as they gathered around. "Why are you here?" Zira asked, trying to sound brave. The elders exchanged glances, and the eldest among them, a wise Zephyrian named Gorn, spoke. "We have come to discuss this training with the Death Worlder," he said firmly. "We believe it is too dangerous for our people." The other Zephyrians fell silent, feeling uneasy. Kale looked confused but listened closely. "I'm just trying to help them become stronger," Kale replied, their voice steady. They need to learn how to protect themselves. Gorn shook his head. But your methods are harsh. Our people are not built for such intensity. We fear for their safety. The tension in the air grew thick as the Zephyrians listened to their elders. Some began to doubt their training. Were they really doing the right thing? Zira stepped forward, her heart pounding. But we are getting stronger. Kale has taught us so much. We feel more confident now than ever, she argued, her voice filled with passion. The other Zephyrians nodded, showing their support for her words. Gorn's expression softened, but he remained firm. It is not just about strength, Zira. It is about our way of life. We value patience and gentle growth. You must consider what is best for our people. Kale sensed the divide in the crowd. They took a deep breath and spoke calmly. I understand your concerns, but my goal is to help them be prepared for the dangers of the galaxy. It's not just about being strong. It's about being ready. The elders looked at each other, unsure. Maybe there is a way to find balance, Gorn suggested. What if we combine your training with our traditions? We can teach them patience while you teach them strength. The idea of combining their methods made sense to Kale. I would be open to that, they said, relief washing over them. Together, we can create a training program that respects your culture while helping them grow. The Zephyrians felt a wave of hope. Yes, we can learn from both, Zira exclaimed. The tension began to lift as the elders considered this new approach. Kale smiled, seeing that cooperation was possible. Let's work together, Kale proposed. We can create exercises that build strength and focus on teamwork and patience. The elders nodded, finally agreeing to give the training a chance. We will help guide your people, Gorn said, a smile breaking through his serious expression. From that day on, the training changed. The Zephyrians learned new exercises that blended Kale's strength training with the elders' teachings of balance and patience. They practiced working together and encouraging one another, building a strong community. As the Zephyrians faced this opposition, they learned that it was okay to question and adapt. With Kale and the elders working together, they found a new path to strength that honored both their cultures. They were not just training to be strong. They were growing as a united community. Little did they know, this newfound balance would prepare them for even greater challenges ahead. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the training ground. The Zephyrians had been training hard under Kale's new mixed program, and their strength was growing. But today was different. Today, they would face a duel. Word had spread across the colony about a special event. A duel was to be held, and it would test the skills of those who had trained with Kale. Zephyrians from all over came to watch, their faces filled with excitement and curiosity. Zira and Plo stood at the front, their hearts racing as they prepared to compete. Are you ready? Plo asked, bouncing on his feet. Zira nodded, but a hint of worry crossed her face. What if I lose? She replied, glancing at the crowd. Everyone is watching. Kale approached them, sensing their nerves. Remember, this is not just about winning. It's about showing what you have learned and having fun. They encourage. Trust in your training and trust each other. The first duel was between two Zephyrians, a tall one named Gornak and a quick one named Jilo. They stepped forward, their bodies tense with excitement. The crowd cheered, and Kale explained the rules. The goal is to touch your opponent with a foam stick. No harm, just a test of skill. The duel began. Gornak lunged forward, but Jilo dodged quickly. The crowd gasped, their eyes wide with anticipation. Jilo countered with a swift strike, but Gornak blocked it with ease. They danced around each other, using the moves they had practiced. Laughter and cheers filled the air as they exchanged playful jabs. After several rounds of back and forth, Jilo managed to touch Gornak's shoulder, winning the duel. The crowd erupted in applause. Well done, Kale called, proud of both competitors. Next up were Zira and Plo. They stepped into the ring, their hearts pounding. Just remember what we practiced. Plo whispered, trying to calm Zira. She nodded, her determination growing. The duel started, and Zira moved quickly, trying to stay light on her feet. Plo was fast, but Zira had learned to read his movements. She dodged to the side, then made a quick lunge with her foam stick. Plo laughed, impressed by her skill. "Nice move," he shouted, but he quickly regained his focus. They exchanged strikes, each trying to touch the other. Zira felt a rush of excitement as she managed to tap Plo on the leg. "Got you," she giggled, her confidence soaring. The crowd cheered loudly, enjoying the friendly competition. As the duels continued, the atmosphere was filled with joy and laughter. Kel watched proudly as the Zephyrians displayed their skills. Each duel showed not only their strength, but also their teamwork and trust in one another. Finally, the last duel was between Kel and an elder named Gorn. The crowd hushed, eager to see the outcome. Kel grinned, ready to show what they had learned from the Zephyrians. The duel began, and Kel moved with speed and agility. Gorn was wise and experienced, using clever tactics to defend himself. They exchanged playful strikes, both laughing as they danced around the ring. In the end, Gorn touched Kel's shoulder, earning cheers from the crowd. "Good match," Kel exclaimed, smiling at the elder. Gorn chuckled. "You have trained well, Kel. Your people are strong." As the event came to a close, the Zephyrians celebrated their achievements. They had faced their fears, shown their skills, and built stronger bonds. They learned that in every duel, whether they won or lost, the true victory was in their friendship and unity. Together, they looked forward to their next challenge, ready to face whatever came their way. The days passed quickly after the exciting duel. The Zephyrians felt different. They were stronger, more confident, and full of energy. Kel had not just trained their bodies, they had transformed their minds and hearts as well. One morning, Kel gathered everyone in the training area. "Today, we will focus on transformation," they announced. The Zephyrians looked at each other, curious about what this meant. Kel smiled, sensing their excitement. "You have all grown so much. It's time to see how far you have come." Kel began with a warm-up session, leading the group through stretches and movements that made their muscles feel alive. Zira and Plo worked together, helping each other find their balance. "I can feel the strength in my arms," Zira exclaimed, stretching high. After the warm-up, Kel introduced a new exercise called the Strength Challenge. The goal was to lift heavier weights than ever before. Kel explained, "This will test not only your strength, but also your belief in yourselves." The Zephyrians were nervous but excited. They had worked hard, and this was their chance to prove it. One by one, they approached the weights. Zira watched as Plo stepped up first. He took a deep breath, focusing on the heavy weight before him. "I can do this," he whispered. With all his might, he lifted the weight above his head. The crowd erupted in cheers. "You did it," Zira shouted, clapping her hands. Next, it was Zira's turn. She felt the pressure of everyone's eyes on her, but she took a deep breath. "I believe in myself," she thought. As she lifted the weight, she could feel the strength in her arms. The crowd cheered, and she managed to lift it higher than she ever had before. "I did it," she laughed, feeling proud. As the strength challenge continued, each Zephyrian faced their fears. Taya, who had once struggled to lift even the lightest weight, now surprised everyone by lifting a heavy one. The crowd went wild with excitement. "You are amazing, Tia," Zira shouted, her heart swelling with pride for her friend. Kel watched with joy, knowing that each Zephyrian was transforming in their way. It wasn't just about lifting weights, it was about believing in themselves and their abilities. They were learning to overcome doubts and fears. After the strength challenge, Kel gathered everyone again. "You have all shown great growth today. But transformation is not just physical. It's also about how you see yourselves," they said. "You are no longer the unsure Zephyrians. You are strong, capable, and united. Inspired by Kel's words, the Zephyrians began to talk among themselves. They shared stories of their fears and how they had overcome them. Zira spoke about her nervousness before the duel. "I thought I would lose, but I learned that it's okay to try, even if I'm scared," she said. Plo nodded in agreement. "We have all changed. We are not just training partners. We are friends who support each other," he added, looking around at his teammates with a smile. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the training ground, the Zephyrians felt a deep sense of connection. They had transformed together, growing stronger and braver as a team. They realized that this journey was not just about physical strength. It was about the bonds they had created and the belief they had in themselves and each other. With their hearts full of hope and determination, the Zephyrians looked forward to their next adventures. Together, they would face whatever challenges awaited them, ready to embrace their transformation. The morning sun rose brightly over Zephyria, casting a warm light on the colony. Today was a special day, a day of new beginnings. The Zephyrians had worked hard, faced challenges, and grown stronger. Now, they were ready to take their next steps together. Kale stood at the center of the training area, a proud smile on their face. "Today, we celebrate all that you have achieved," they announced, their voice ringing with excitement. The Zephyrians gathered around, their faces filled with joy and anticipation. As the crowd settled, Zira stepped forward. "We have come so far since the day Kale arrived. We have learned to be strong and to trust each other," she said. The other Zephyrians cheered in agreement, their hearts swelling with pride. Kale continued, "But this is just the beginning. Today, we will take everything we have learned and use it to help our community. We will show the other Zephyrians how strong we have become." The crowd buzzed with energy, ready to make a difference. The first event of the day was a demonstration of all the skills they had learned. Each Zephyrian would show off their strength, agility, and teamwork. Kale organized the activities, making sure everyone had a chance to shine. The excitement in the air was contagious. Plo was the first to step up. He demonstrated his new lifting skills, raising heavy weights above his head with ease. The crowd gasped in awe, and cheers erupted as he completed his routine. "That was amazing, Plo," Zira shouted, her voice filled with excitement. Next, it was Tia's turn. She showcased her agility with a series of quick movements, weaving through obstacles set up in the training area. The Zephyrians clapped and shouted encouragement. "Go, Tia," they cheered. Taya felt a rush of confidence as she finished her routine, her heart racing with joy. As the demonstrations continued, Kale watched proudly. Each Zephyrian was not only showing their strength, but also how much they had transformed. They had come together as a team, and now they were ready to inspire others. After the demonstrations, Kale gathered everyone once more. "Now that we have shown our skills, it's time to give back to our community," they said. "We will hold a training day for all Zephyrians, inviting everyone to learn with us." The idea sparked excitement in the crowd. "Yes, let's help others grow strong," Zira exclaimed, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. The Zephyrians began to plan the event, brainstorming activities and lessons to share. The next few days were filled with preparation. The Zephyrians worked together, setting up the training area for the upcoming event. They created fun exercises and friendly competitions, eager to welcome others into their growing community. Finally, the day of the training event arrived. Zephyrians from all around the colony came to join. Some were curious, while others were excited to learn. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as the Zephyrians welcomed their friends and family. Kale opened the event with a warm welcome. "Today, we come together as a community. Let's learn and grow strong together," they said. The crowd cheered, filled with enthusiasm. As the activities began, the Zephyrians showed everyone the skills they had learned. They taught others how to lift weights, practice agility, and work as a team. Laughter and joy filled the air as everyone participated, feeling the spirit of unity. By the end of the day, the training event was a success. The Zephyrians felt proud of what they had accomplished. They had not only transformed themselves, but also inspired others to grow and become strong. As the sun set over the colony, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, the Zephyrians gathered together, feeling a deep sense of connection. They knew this was just the beginning of many new adventures together. With hope in their hearts, they looked forward to the future, ready to face whatever came their way. In a future where Earth was locked in a fierce war with powerful aliens, there lived a soldier named Captain Jake Rivers. Jake was not just any soldier. He was brave and determined, always ready to protect his home. From a young age, he dreamed of serving his country. Growing up in a small town, he had seen the fear in people's eyes as news of alien attacks spread. Those moments stuck with him. He wanted to be a shield for those who could not fight. Jake was tall and strong, with short brown hair and a determined look in his blue eyes. His friends often joked that he could stare down the fiercest of aliens and not blink. But Jake was more than just a soldier. He was a friend, a brother, and a protector. He loved his family and cared deeply about the people he fought for. Every day, he wore his uniform with pride, knowing he was part of something much bigger than himself. He had a reputation in the army. Jake was known for his sharp instincts and quick thinking in tough situations. He never backed down from a challenge. Whether it was training exercises or real battles, he faced everything head-on. His fellow soldiers admired him, often looking to him for guidance. He had a way of bringing out the best in everyone around him. Jake's unit was about to get a new mission, and he felt the excitement in the air. He gathered with his team in the briefing room, ready to hear what lay ahead. The walls were covered in maps and holograms, showing the locations of enemy bases and potential attack routes. The atmosphere was tense, but Jake could feel the determination in his teammates' hearts. As the commanding officer stepped forward, everyone's eyes turned to him. "Listen up, team," he said, his voice booming. "We have a critical mission. Our scouts have found an enemy base deep in their territory. We need to gather intelligence and find out what the aliens are planning." Jake listened closely, his mind racing with thoughts. He knew this mission was dangerous, but he felt a spark of hope. This was their chance to turn the tide of the war. They could find out what the aliens were plotting and save countless lives. As the officer continued, Jake felt a sense of responsibility weighing on him. He looked around at his team. Sergeant Mia with her fierce determination. Corporal Leo who always made everyone laugh, and Private Sam the newest recruit, eager to prove himself. They were all counting on him. He wanted to lead them to victory. After the briefing, Jake gathered his team together. "We can do this," he said, looking each one of them in the eye. "If we work together, we can accomplish anything. Let's show those aliens what we're made of." His words ignited a fire in their hearts. They nodded, sharing smiles and encouragement. Jake felt a surge of pride. They were not just soldiers. They were a family, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With their minds set on the mission, they began to prepare for what would be the most important fight of their lives. The morning sun rose over the military base, casting a warm glow on everything. Captain Jake Rivers felt a buzz of energy in the air. Today was not just another day. It was the day they would begin their mission. After the briefing, Jake and his team were ready to prove themselves. They gathered in the equipment room, where the walls were lined with weapons and gear. "All right, team, listen up," Jake called out, making sure everyone's attention was on him. "This mission is dangerous, but we have the skills and the spirit to succeed. We will gather intel from the enemy base and get back safely. We need to stick together and watch each other's backs." Sergeant Mia nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I've been waiting for this. Let's show those aliens we mean business." Corporal Leo chuckled. I just hope they don't have any weird alien snacks waiting for us. I'm not ready to eat anything strange." Everyone laughed, easing the tension in the room. Jake smiled, grateful for the camaraderie they shared. Laughter was important, especially in tough times. They packed their gear, weapons, communication devices, and supplies for the mission. Jake checked his backpack, making sure he had everything he needed. He felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This mission could change everything for Earth. As they loaded onto the transport vehicle, Jake glanced at his team. Private Sam sat nervously, his hands shaking slightly. Jake remembered how it felt to be a rookie, full of fear and excitement. "Hey, Sam," Jake said, leaning closer. "You'll do great. Just trust your training and stick with us." Sam smiled, the nervousness easing a bit. "Thanks, Captain. I won't let you down." The vehicle roared to life and took off, speeding through the landscape. Outside, the world changed from the green fields of Earth to the harsh, rocky terrain near the enemy border. The team remained quiet, each lost in their thoughts, preparing for what was to come. After a short ride, they arrived at the drop-off point, a hidden location a few miles from the enemy base. Jake gathered everyone for a final pep talk. "Remember, we're here to gather information. We stick to the plan, and we stay together. If we encounter trouble, we fight smart and get out safely. Are you ready?" "Ready," the team shouted in unison, their voices filled with confidence. Jake felt a surge of pride. They were not just soldiers, they were a team. He led them into the thick trees, moving silently towards the enemy base. The air was tense, but Jake knew they were prepared. He glanced back at his team, watching as they moved with purpose and focus. As they approached the base, the towering walls loomed in front of them. Guard towers watched over the area, and Jake knew they had to be careful. "Stay low and keep quiet," he whispered. They crawled through the bushes, inching closer to the enemy stronghold. Suddenly, a noise broke the silence. Jake held up his hand, signaling everyone to stop. His heart raced. What was that? They all froze, listening intently. A group of aliens walked past them, their voices strange and sharp. Jake's heart sank. They needed to be extra careful. "Let's wait until they pass," he whispered. His team nodded, eyes wide with anticipation. They knew this mission was risky, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They just had to stick together, trust each other, and do their jobs. In that moment, Jake felt a mix of fear and determination. This mission was not just about gathering information. It was about protecting their home and showing the aliens that Earth would not back down. The tension in the air was thick as Captain Jake Rivers and his team lay low in the bushes, watching the enemy base. The alien guards moved in and out of view, their sharp voices echoing in the stillness. Jake's heart raced. He knew this was their chance to sneak in and gather the vital information that could change the war. "Remember, stay quiet and stick together," Jake whispered to his team. They nodded, their faces serious. Each soldier understood the importance of this moment. They had trained for months, and now it was time to put their skills to the test. As the aliens turned away, Jake signaled for the team to move. They crawled through the dense underbrush, staying low to the ground. The base loomed ahead, its high walls made of strange dark material that seemed to absorb the light. Jake spotted a small opening in the wall, just big enough for them to slip through. "Over there," he pointed, his voice barely above a whisper. The team quickly made their way to the opening, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. Once inside, they found themselves in a dimly lit corridor. The air was cold and filled with a strange metallic smell. Jake led the way, moving quietly, his senses on high alert. They passed several doors, each one marked with strange symbols that Jake didn't understand. "Where do we go now?" asked Private Sam, his voice shaky. "Let's find the control room. That's where they keep important information," Jake replied, keeping his voice calm. He remembered the layout they had studied and guided the team down the hallway. As they walked, Jake felt a mix of pride and worry. He was leading his team into danger, but they had come this far together. He needed to stay focused. Suddenly, they heard footsteps approaching. Jake quickly motioned for everyone to hide behind a large metal crate. They pressed their backs against the cold surface, trying to blend into the shadows. Jake held his breath as the footsteps grew louder. 2 alien guards walked past, talking in their strange language. Jake could see their sharp features and bright eyes, scanning the area. He felt his heart pounding in his chest, but he knew they had to stay quiet. The guards moved on, and Jake let out a sigh of relief. "Okay, let's keep going," he whispered. They emerged from their hiding spot and continued down the hallway, moving with purpose. After a few more turns, they finally reached a heavy door marked with flashing lights. Jake paused, feeling a surge of excitement. This must be it. The control room. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Stand back," Jake said, pulling out a small device from his pack. It was a hacking tool they had used in training. He placed it against the door's lock and activated it. The device whirred softly, and a green light flashed. Come on," Jake muttered under his breath. The team stood close, watching anxiously. After a tense moment, the door clicked open, and Jake pushed it wide. Inside, the room was filled with blinking screens and strange machinery. Jake's eyes widened as he took in the sight. "This is it," he exclaimed. The team quickly moved in, spreading out to gather information. Jake focused on one of the screens, which displayed maps and data. His fingers flew over the controls, trying to make sense of the alien technology. "We need to hurry," Sergeant Mia urged, glancing at the door. They could come back any minute. Jake nodded, his mind racing. They had to find what they needed and get out quickly. As he scanned the screen, a red alert suddenly blared, filling the room with an alarming sound. "What did you do?" Leo shouted, eyes wide. "Nothing. Just grab what you can," Jake yelled, his heart racing. They had to move fast. The aliens would be onto them any second now. With urgency, the team worked together, collecting vital information that could save Earth. Jake knew they had to escape before it was too late. The alarm blared in the control room, echoing off the cold metal walls. Captain Jake Rivers felt his heart race as he glanced at his team. They were scrambling to gather information, but time was running out. "We need to move now," he shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Sergeant Mia was already at the door, peeking out into the hallway. "I don't see any guards, but we have to be careful," she warned. As they prepared to leave, Jake felt a knot in his stomach. Something didn't feel right. The tension in the air was thick, and he sensed that danger was closing in fast. "Let's go," Jake urged, leading the way. The team moved quickly but quietly back through the narrow hallways. They retraced their steps, hearts pounding in unison, hoping to escape before the aliens discovered their presence. Suddenly, Jake heard footsteps behind them. "Quick, hide," he whispered, motioning for his team to duck behind a stack of crates. They squeezed into the shadows, holding their breaths as the sound grew louder. 2 alien guards passed by, their voices sharp and angry. "They must be here somewhere," one of them shouted. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. They were close, but who was the real threat? As the guards moved on, Jake signaled for the team to continue. They crept along, but something felt off. He noticed that Private Sam was acting strangely. He kept glancing back, looking nervous and jumpy. "Sam, stay focused," Jake whispered, trying to keep the team's spirits high, but Sam didn't seem to hear him. The more Jake watched, the more uneasy he felt. Something was definitely wrong. Finally, they reached a small maintenance door that led outside. Jake pushed it open, and fresh air flooded in. They had made it to the back of the base, but they needed to cross an open area to reach the safety of the trees. "All right, "Let's move fast," Jake commanded, but before they could take a step, Sam suddenly shouted, "Wait! They're coming." Jake turned to see Sam pointing toward the entrance of the maintenance area. A group of alien guards was rushing toward them, weapons drawn. Panic surged through Jake's body. "Run!" he yelled, and the team sprinted into the open. But as they ran, Jake heard a loud crash behind him. He turned to see Sam tripping over his own feet, but what shocked him was the sight of Sam's hand reaching for a hidden weapon. "Sam, what are you doing?" Jake shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "Sorry, Captain. I didn't want to fight," Sam replied, but his eyes were wide with fear and something else. Betrayal. Jake's heart sank. "You're working with them, aren't you?" he accused, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. "No, I swear. I was just scared," Sam protested, but the doubt hung heavily in the air. "Get out of here," Leo yelled, pushing past Jake. "We can't let him slow us down." Maya's face was filled with confusion. "What do we do? We can't leave him," she shouted, torn between loyalty and fear. "Think about it," Jake urged, trying to keep calm. "If we let him stay, we put everyone at risk." As the guards closed in, Sam backed away, his eyes darting nervously. I didn't mean to. Please, don't leave me," he pleaded, desperation in his voice. "Run," Jake shouted again, feeling his heart ache. He didn't want to abandon Sam, but they had no choice. They couldn't trust him. The team hesitated for a moment, but they knew they had to keep moving. Jake led the charge, pushing forward into the trees. The sounds of pursuit faded behind them, but Sam's terrified face lingered in Jake's mind. It was a moment he wouldn't soon forget, a moment that would change everything. Once they reached the safety of the trees, Jake turned to his team. "We have to regroup and figure out our next move. This isn't over." But in that moment, he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. They had lost one of their own, and it weighed heavily on his heart. As Captain Jake Rivers and his team hurried through the trees, the cool air filled their lungs, but the weight of betrayal hung heavy in the atmosphere. They found a small clearing where they could catch their breath and regroup. Jake leaned against a tree, his heart racing from the close call. "What just happened back there?" Sergeant Maya asked, her voice shaking. "Did we really have a traitor among us?" Jake sighed, looking at the ground. "I don't know." Sam seemed scared, but we couldn't take that chance. If he was working with the aliens, he could have put us all in danger. Corporal Leo shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought he would betray us. He was one of us." "People react differently in fear," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We need to focus on what's next. We have the intel we gathered, and now we have to plan our next move." Mia nodded, but her expression was still troubled. "What if he tells the aliens where we are? What if they come after us?" "We'll deal with that when it comes," Jake replied, feeling the pressure of leadership weigh heavily on him. He glanced at Private Sam's empty space, wishing things had turned out differently. "Let's see what we got from the control room," Jake suggested. He pulled out the data tablet they had snatched from the alien base. The team gathered around him, curiosity overcoming their fear. As Jake opened the files, a series of maps and plans filled the screen. "Look at this," he said, excitement creeping into his voice. "These are their attack routes and plans for future offensives against Earth. We can use this information to warn Command and maybe even turn the tide of the war." Mia leaned closer, her eyes widening. "This could save thousands of lives." Leo pointed at a specific location on the map. "What's this?" "It looks like a major alien base near the coast. If we could gather more intel there, we could strike a real blow against them." Jake's heart raced at the thought. "You're right. We could gather a team and launch a surprise attack. But we'll need to be careful, especially after what just happened. We can't afford any more surprises." "Should we return to base and inform Command?" Maya asked, her brows furrowed in thought. Jake hesitated. That could take time. And we don't know if the aliens will discover our plan. If we strike now, we could catch them off guard while they're still reeling from our last mission. After a moment of silence, the team exchanged determined looks. They all knew the risks, but they also felt the fire of determination growing within them. They were not just soldiers. They were protectors of their home. "Let's do it," Maya said, her voice firm. "We can't let fear stop us. We've come too far, and we have too much to fight for." "Agreed." Leo chimed in. "We'll show them that Earth will not back down." With renewed strength, Jake felt the burden of doubt begin to lift. His team was strong and united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were more than just a group of soldiers. They were a family, bound by their shared purpose. "All right then," Jake said, a smile creeping onto his face. "Let's plan our next move. We'll hit that base and gather the intel we need. We'll show those aliens what we're made of." The team gathered around Jake, their spirits high as they began to strategize. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but together they felt invincible. With each plan and every shared laugh, they found strength in one another. As they prepared to leave the clearing, Jake glanced back at the trees. He thought of Sam and the uncertainty of what had happened, but he knew one thing. They would fight for their home and protect each other no matter what. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows through the trees, Captain Jake Rivers and his team moved quietly toward the alien base. Their hearts pounded with a mix of excitement and fear. They had a plan, and they were determined to see it through. "Remember, we need to stay low and stick to the shadows," Jake reminded everyone. The last thing they wanted was to be spotted again. The betrayal of Private Sam weighed heavily on their minds, but they couldn't let that stop them. They reached the outskirts of the enemy base, the imposing walls looming before them. Alien guards patrolled the area, their glowing eyes scanning for any sign of intruders. Jake felt a shiver run down his spine. The stakes were higher than ever, and failure was not an option. Over there, Mia pointed to a side entrance, partially hidden behind some crates. "It looks less guarded." "Good eye, Mia. Let's move," Jake whispered. The team crept forward, moving as silently as possible. With each step, Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He couldn't afford to let his team down. As they approached the entrance, Jake took a deep breath and pushed the door open slowly. It creaked softly, but no alarms sounded. They slipped inside and found themselves in a dimly lit hallway. The air was cold and smelled of metal and oil. Jake led the way, his heart pounding with each step. They made their way deeper into the base, passing by rooms filled with strange machines and flickering lights. They reached a corner, and Jake signaled for everyone to stop. "We need to gather more information before we leave," he said, trying to keep the tension at bay. "Let's check out that room." He pointed to a door at the end of the hall. As they approached the door, Jake could feel his nerves spike again. What if they ran into another guard? But they had come too far to turn back now. He pushed the door open, and they entered a small room filled with monitors displaying data about their operations. "Jackpot!" Leo exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. "Look at all this information. We can see their plans, their troop movements, everything." "Gather as much as you can," Jake instructed. "We don't have much time." As they worked quickly, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the door. Jake's heart dropped. "Hurry," he urged, adrenaline pumping through his veins. Just as they finished collecting the data, the door swung open, and an alien guard stepped inside, eyes wide in shock. "Intruders," he yelled. "Run," Jake shouted, grabbing the data tablet. The team dashed past the guard, racing down the hallway as alarms began to blare. The sound was deafening, but they pushed on, sprinting toward the exit. Jake could hear the guard calling for backup, and he knew they had to get out fast. "Left," Mia shouted, leading them down another corridor. They rounded the corner and found a set of stairs leading down. We need to get to the lower levels. Maybe we can find another exit. They dashed down the stairs, the alarm still ringing in their ears. The tension was palpable, but Jake focused on the goal ahead. They had to escape. When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a large storage area. "We can hide here for a moment," Jake said, panting. "We need to catch our breath and think of our next move." They ducked behind some crates, hearts racing. As they caught their breath, the sound of footsteps grew closer. "They're searching for us," Leo whispered, eyes wide. "Stay quiet," Jake replied, keeping his voice low. They listened as the guards searched the area, their voices harsh and demanding. After a few tense moments, the guards moved on, and Jake felt a wave of relief. "We can't stay here long. Let's move while we still can." They crept through the storage area and found a door marked Exit. Jake pushed it open, revealing a dark alleyway outside. "This is it," he exclaimed, leading his team out into the cool night air. As they stepped outside, the sound of their heartbeats began to slow. They were free, at least for now. "We did it," Mia cheered, relief flooding her voice. "Not yet," Jake reminded them. "We still have to make it back to our lines safely." With determination in their eyes, the team moved away from the base, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They had survived the night, and now they would fight for their home and for each other. As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Captain Jake Rivers and his team made their way back to the safety of their base. They were tired and dirty, but the thrill of their successful escape kept their spirits high. They had vital information that could turn the tide of the war, and they were eager to share it. Once they arrived at the base, Jake rushed into the command center, his heart pounding with excitement. "We need to report what we found," he called out, drawing the attention of the officers and soldiers in the room. Commander Ellis, a stern but fair leader, turned to him, eyes wide with concern. "Jake, what happened?" "We received reports of an alien breach at their base." Jake took a deep breath, trying to gather his thoughts. "We infiltrated the enemy base and gathered crucial data about their plans and troop movements. But we also encountered a traitor, Private Sam. He was working with the aliens." Gasps filled the room, and Commander Ellis frowned. "Are you sure about this?" "Yes, sir," Jake replied, feeling the weight of responsibility. "He was scared and betrayed us at a critical moment. But we have the information to prove our worth. It could save lives and help us strike back." "Show me," Commander Ellis commanded, gesturing for Jake to bring the data tablet forward. Jake stepped forward, handing the tablet over. The room went silent as everyone leaned in to view the data. As Commander Ellis scrolled through the information, his expression shifted from concern to determination. "This is excellent work, Captain. This information could change everything." Mia, Leo, and the rest of the team stood by, watching the commander process the intel. Jake felt a swell of pride for his team. They had faced danger, betrayal, and uncertainty, yet they had prevailed. "Prepare a briefing for all units," Commander Ellis ordered, his voice firm. "We need everyone to understand the new strategies. This is our chance to take the fight to the enemy." "Yes, sir," Jake and his team responded, energized by the commander's words. As they prepared for the briefing, Jake couldn't shake the feeling of loss over Sam. He had been one of them, and now he was gone. "We need to keep an eye out for more traitors," Jake said quietly to Mia. "This could be a bigger problem than we thought." Mia nodded, her expression serious. "We can't let fear spread among the ranks. We have to stay united and strong." Once the briefing began, Jake and his team shared their experiences with the other soldiers. They recounted the mission, the close call with the guards, and the information they had gathered. The room was filled with a mix of fear and excitement, but Jake could see the determination in everyone's eyes. "We have the chance to strike back," Jake concluded, his voice strong. "Together, We can turn this war in our favor. We must trust one another and work as a team. We will not let fear or betrayal stop us." The room erupted in cheers, and Jake felt a sense of unity among the soldiers. They were all fighting for the same cause, and they would stand together no matter what. As the briefing ended, Commander Ellis approached Jake. "You did well, Captain. Your leadership is commendable. We will launch a counteroffensive based on the intel you provided." Jake smiled, feeling the weight of the past few days lift from his shoulders. "Thank you, sir. We just want to protect our home." "Then we will do just that," Commander Ellis said firmly. "Prepare your team. We move out at dawn tomorrow." With renewed determination, Jake and his team set to work, knowing that the fight for their world was far from over. They had faced darkness, but now they stood ready to share the truth and fight back, united in their mission to protect humanity. The sun rose over the horizon, casting a golden light on the battlefield. Captain Jake Rivers stood with his team, heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. Today was the day they would face the aliens head-on and take back their world. The camp was buzzing with energy as soldiers prepared for the final battle. Jake looked around, seeing the determination in everyone's eyes. He felt proud of his team and knew they had come a long way since their first mission. "Listen up," Jake called, gathering his team close. "We have a plan, and we know what we're fighting for. This is our chance to show the aliens that we will not back down. Remember the intel we gathered. Use it to our advantage." Mia nodded, her face serious. "We have to stick to the plan and watch each other's backs. We can't let fear control us." Leo added, "We've trained hard for this. We can do it." With a fierce sense of unity, they moved toward the front lines. The air was thick with tension, and Jake could feel his heart pounding in his chest. As they reached their positions, he took a moment to look at the vast battlefield ahead. The alien base loomed in the distance, filled with enemy soldiers and weapons. "Here they come," a soldier shouted, breaking the tension. Jake quickly focused on the approaching alien forces. They marched forward, weapons raised, their eyes glinting with malice. "Get ready," Jake yelled, adrenaline surging through him. He tightened his grip on his weapon, feeling the weight of responsibility for his team and all of humanity. As the aliens neared, the first shots rang out. Jake and his team fired back, returning fire with precision. The sounds of explosions and cries filled the air, but Jake kept his focus. They were fighting for their home, their families, and everything they held dear. "Move to the left flank," Jake ordered, leading his team as they repositioned. They needed to flank the enemy and gain the upper hand. The battle raged on, chaos all around them. Smoke filled the air, making it hard to see, but Jake stayed focused on the mission. Suddenly, a familiar face emerged from the chaos. It was Private Sam, the traitor from before. He stood with the alien forces, fear written across his face. "Jake, he began, but before he could finish, the battle raged on around him. "Sam," Jake shouted, but Sam hesitated, caught between fear and regret. The sight of him made Jake's heart ache. "Join us. We're fighting for our home." But Sam's eyes darted to the aliens, and he raised his weapon, uncertainty clouding his judgment. "I don't know what to do," he yelled back, panic rising in his voice. Just then, an alien soldier spotted Sam and shouted, "Get him." The chaos turned toward Sam, and Jake felt a surge of anger and sadness. He had once trusted this man, but now he was caught in a dangerous web. "Go, Sam. Fight with us," Jake urged, but the fear in Sam's eyes held him back. In that moment of distraction, an alien soldier aimed at Jake. "Look out," Mia shouted, pushing Jake out of the way. The blast hit Mia instead, and she fell to the ground. "Mia," Jake cried, rushing to her side. She was hurt but still conscious. "Stay with me," he begged. "I'm okay," Mia whispered, but Jake could see the pain in her eyes. With renewed anger, Jake turned to face the aliens. "This ends now," he yelled. He rallied his team, firing back with fierce determination. They fought hard, using everything they had learned to push the aliens back. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. The soldiers fought with everything they had, and slowly but surely, they gained ground. Jake felt a wave of hope wash over him as the enemy forces began to retreat. Finally, the aliens turned and fled, leaving behind their base. Cheers erupted among the soldiers, and Jake felt a mix of relief and sadness. They had won, but at what cost? "Mia," he shouted, turning back to his friend. "We need help over here." As medics rushed to Mia's side, Jake knew this battle had changed everything. They had fought together, faced their fears, and stood united against a common enemy. Together, they would rebuild, heal, and move forward. Today was just the beginning of a new chapter in their fight for freedom. As the dust settled from the battle, the morning sun peeked through the clouds, casting a warm glow over the battlefield. Captain Jake Rivers stood among his team, taking in the scene around him. They had fought hard and emerged victorious, but the cost weighed heavy on their hearts. Mia had been rushed to the medical tent, and Jake felt a knot in his stomach. He couldn't shake the fear of losing her. The medics had assured him she would be okay, but he needed to see her for himself. "I'll be right back," he told his team, determination in his stride. Jake pushed through the crowd of soldiers celebrating their victory, his heart pounding with worry. When he reached the medical tent, he found it bustling with activity. Injured soldiers were being treated, their faces pale and weary. The air smelled of antiseptics and sweat, a stark reminder of the battle they had just fought. "Mia," he called out, scanning the room. Finally, he spotted her lying on a cot, bandages wrapped around her shoulder. Relief washed over him, but the sight of her pale face still made his heart ache. "Mia." He rushed to her side, kneeling beside her. "How are you feeling?" She opened her eyes, a weak smile forming on her lips. "Just a scratch, Jake. I'll be fine. You should be celebrating, not worrying about me." "Celebrating feels wrong when you're hurt," he replied, holding her hand tightly. "You saved my life out there." Mia chuckled softly. "You would have done the same for me. We're a team, remember?" Jake nodded, feeling grateful for her strength. "Together, we can face anything." They shared a moment of silence, reflecting on the battle they had fought and the friends they had lost. It was a hard truth, but they had to keep moving forward. As the day went on, the base buzzed with energy. Soldiers shared stories of bravery and camaraderie, laughing and crying together. Jake knew this victory was not just for them, but for everyone who believed in their cause. It was a turning point, a new beginning for humanity. Later that evening, Commander Ellis called for a gathering to honor the fallen and celebrate their victory. Soldiers gathered in the main courtyard, their faces illuminated by the flickering lights. The mood was a mix of joy and sorrow, and Jake felt a sense of unity among them. "Today, we have proven that we will not back down," Commander Ellis began, his voice strong and clear. "We faced our fears, fought for our freedom, and emerged victorious. But we must remember those who sacrificed everything for us. We honor their bravery and their memory." The crowd fell silent, heads bowed in respect. Jake thought of his fallen comrades, the faces of those who had stood by him. It was a reminder of the price of freedom and the strength of their bond. After the ceremony, Jake found Mia sitting on a bench outside the medical tent, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky. He joined her, both of them lost in thought. "What now?" Maya asked, breaking the silence. Jake sighed, looking up at the stars. "We rebuild. We help those who are still struggling. This battle was just the beginning of our fight." Mia smiled softly. "We'll make sure their sacrifices weren't in vain. Together, we can create a better future." With determination in their hearts, they looked toward the horizon. The road ahead would be challenging, but they were ready to face it. They had each other, and they had a new purpose. As the stars shone brightly above, Jake and Mia knew they were part of something bigger. A new beginning awaited them, and together, they would shape the future, one step at a time.